Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we bring you breaking developments from the Middle East where the conflict has taken another sharp turn. Israel has carried out a series of airstrikes targeting what it describes as critical Hamas strongholds in Gaza. The strikes have shaken neighborhoods across the Strip with powerful blasts echoing through the night skies. Residents describe scenes of chaos as buildings rattled and smoke clouds billowed across the horizon. Israeli officials claim the targets included weapons depots, command centers, and underground tunnels that have long been used to store rockets and other military supplies. The move comes after repeated warnings from the Israeli defense establishment that Hamas had been preparing new operations from within densely populated areas. In parallel, Israeli forces report that they successfully thwarted an attempted retaliation by the Houthi movement, who launched drones and missiles in solidarity with Hamas. These projectiles were intercepted before they reached Israeli airspace. The Israeli military hailed the operation as a decisive success, saying it sent a clear message to regional actors who might consider escalating the conflict further. The Houthis based in Yemen have increasingly tried to project power beyond their borders, and their alignment with Hamas is viewed by many analysts as a dangerous widening of the conflict. Reports from Gaza suggest that several areas have been left devastated, although casualty numbers remain uncertain at this time. Emergency responders continue to sift through rubble while civilians scramble for safety. Families describe sleepless nights under constant fear as air raid sirens and thunderous blasts dominate the atmosphere. Local hospitals, already strained by shortages, are bracing for a surge of casualties. International aid agencies warn that the humanitarian toll could become severe if hostilities continue. At this pace, military analysts emphasize that these strikes are not isolated incidents, but part of a broader campaign aimed at neutralizing Hamas capabilities. Israel insists that it must maintain security by dismantling operational hubs before attacks are launched. However, critics argue that the scale of bombardment places countless civilians at risk and raises questions of proportionality. The international community is closely watching these events, with several nations urging restraint and calling for immediate de-escalation. Diplomats fear that unchecked escalation could ignite wider instability across the region. As news of the Houthi involvement spreads, security analysts highlight the strategic implications by attempting retaliation. The Houthis are signaling a willingness to stretch their confrontation against Israel beyond the confines of their traditional battles with Saudi Arabia and its allies. Their missile and drone capabilities, though largely intercepted, still pose a regional threat. As they demonstrate growing reach, experts suggest this could be a deliberate move to align themselves more firmly with the so-called axis of resistance that includes groups in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Iran. International leaders have issued statements with the United Nations Secretary General expressing grave concern over the escalating violence. European governments call for restraint, warning that further escalation could trigger mass displacement and humanitarian crises. The United States has reiterated its support for Israel's right to defend itself, but also urged caution to prevent civilian casualties. In contrast, Iran has condemned the Israeli strikes while praising the resilience of resistance movements across the region. These polarized responses underscore how deeply divided the global community remains on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. On the ground, ordinary people are bearing the brunt of these military actions. In Gaza, families are trapped in overcrowded shelters, unsure of where safety can be found. Parents recount the terror of trying to calm their children as bombs explode nearby, while in Israel, civilians live under constant alert for incoming rockets and missiles. The psychological toll is immense, with communities gripped by anxiety and uncertainty. Humanitarian workers describe heartbreaking scenes as they deliver aid under dangerous conditions, risking their own lives to provide medical supplies, food, and shelter. Analysts predict that the conflict may intensify before any breakthrough is possible. Hamas is unlikely to halt its activities in response to airstrikes alone, and Israel's leadership has made clear it will continue operations until it deems its objectives met. Meanwhile, the involvement of the Houthis opens new questions about regional solidarity among militant groups and how much further escalation could draw in other actors, including Hezbollah in Lebanon or Iran itself. Some observers warn that this could spiral into a multi-front confrontation, stretching Israel's military resources and destabilizing the region more broadly. While the strikes continue, there are also diplomatic efforts unfolding behind the scenes. Regional mediators, including Qatar and Egypt, are reportedly pressing both sides to step back from the brink. Egyptian officials have long served as intermediaries in ceasefire talks and are once again urging dialogue. Though prospects for immediate success appear slim, international humanitarian organizations meanwhile plead for corridors that would allow safe passage of civilians and delivery of aid. These calls highlight the urgent need for relief amid escalating destruction. The economic and social fallout is also significant in Gaza. Infrastructure damage has disrupted electricity and water supplies, exacerbating an already dire situation. Schools and businesses have been forced to shut down, adding to the strain on families who face unemployment and poverty. On the Israeli side, daily life is punctuated by uncertainty, as communities in the south frequently seek refuge in bomb shelters, disrupting education, commerce, and public services. The cost of prolonged conflict weighs heavily on both populations, fueling anger, fear, and deepening mistrust. Many observers point to the symbolic weight of the Houthi involvement. Though their attempted retaliation was neutralized, the mere act signals their intent to expand the battlefield. This has raised alarms in neighboring countries, particularly Saudi Arabia, which has been engaged in conflict with the Houthis for years. Analysts argue that if the Houthis become a more active participant against Israel, the regional map of conflict could shift dramatically, altering alliances and intensifying hostilities across multiple fronts. This development complicates already fragile security calculations and makes international diplomacy even more urgent throughout history. Conflicts between Israel and Hamas have drawn international attention. But this episode marks a new phase where cross-border alliances and regional actors play a more visible role. The growing intersection of these conflicts reflects deeper geopolitical currents, including the rivalry between Iran and its adversaries, the support networks that sustain militant groups, and the shifting calculations of major powers who seek influence in the Middle East. In this context, each strike and each retaliatory attempt carries implications far beyond the immediate battlefield. The humanitarian dimension cannot be ignored. While officials trade accusations, civilians continue to suffer with mounting reports of displacement. Children deprived of education, families separated, and entire neighborhoods reduced to rubble aid. Organizations warn that without urgent relief, the population of Gaza faces catastrophe. Food shortages, clean water scarcity, and collapsing healthcare systems deepen the crisis.